me today is Dr. David Wilson, Principal of Independent Research Consultancy Cities and Regions Limited. He's immediate past Chairman and Director of Economic Development New Zealand and a member of the Independent Advisory Panel for the Provincial Growth Fund. David, of course, has had a long association with Northland through his previous role as Chief Executive of Regional Development Agency Northland, Inc. Hello, David. How are you?
Morning, Peter. Very good, thank you. And aren't we living in interesting times?
Yes, yes.
Let's hope that's not a curse.
Absolutely, as it was originally intended.
Yes. Tell
me, David, what's keeping you busy at the moment?
Oh, gee. I'm not sure I've been any busier in my life, to be honest. So through my role in cities and regions, I've been doing a lot of writing and a lot of advocacy and a lot of work trying to, if you like, put the case to government that the economy needs as much attention as the health aspects of coronavirus, and to try and put in place mechanisms so that we can actually plan our way out of this as best we possibly can with the right mechanisms in place. That's really taken up a lot of my time. The other thing I've been doing is running a lot of professional development programs for Economic Development New Zealand. There's a lot of interest, of course, in how we respond and recover from this crisis. And on top of that, doing various bits of work for a number of regions around how they can organise their response. So that's keeping me pretty busy.
Fabulous. I'll get back to the work that you're doing for the regions about how they can organise their response in a moment. But first, how do you see regional responses to the economic challenges tying into the national response, which is being spearheaded by Rob Fye?
Yeah, I think we actually really need to gear that up more formally than it currently is. So what I'll be asking for is an economic response team at the national level and a plan, and then supporting that, regional response teams and regional plans.
What do you think is the risk of the economic development plans for the regions being overlooked in this process?
Yeah, look, that's a really good question. A lot of the regions do have economic action plans like Northland does with the Tautokara Northland Economic Action Plan. The biggest advantage you have is that you have a plan and you actually have some structures in place and some criteria around what gets picked and what doesn't.
Who needs to lead that discussion with the people who are putting this thing together at a national level?
You need some of your top business leaders in the team to decide what needs to happen now.
Sue Doby spoke about the need for a unified voice and for us to stop speaking to Wellington through several voices and several organizations. How important is that in your view right now?
Extremely important, you know, because we've got a crisis which is consuming us and we need a concerted approach to address it. Comprehensive, but concerted. So yeah, I agree that we need to speak with one voice as much as possible. If you look at the international literature, the voice tends to be the political leaders coming together to say these are the things, but underneath that you've got this kind of response team which has got the best and brightest from Northland on it, not only from the private sector, but from regional and local government, iwi, NGO sector, Economic Development Agency, all of the chamber. All of those people need to be involved in deciding what should happen from here. And you've already got a mechanism in place. It's called the plan, the Economic Action Plan. What we need is a pivot. You know, what's missing? What needs to happen? So what we need to do is not throw that plan out. We need to recalculate and pivot that plan to what we need to do now. And I can see kind of three things working together there in how you address what we're currently confronting. And those would be response, recovery, and rebound. They're all different. They can run in parallel to a certain extent, but right now response is top of mind. You know, we've got whole industries that are actually shut down. and that's causing all sorts of problems in the economy. No transactions, no money, no economy, no health system, and in that order.
So stitching those 3 R's of yours into the National Recovery Plan is a vital part of what needs to happen at a regional level. Presumably, we need to be pushing that up rather than expecting some kind of attention heading from us the other direction.
Yeah, it's a two-way street, Peter, absolutely. So the Northland response from a national point of view would be something along the lines of, we know you're going to spend money and pivot the spending in the Provincial Growth Fund towards an immediate response and recovery. We know that you're going to be spending on infrastructure projects. We know that you're looking for projects that are investment ready now because you want to kickstart the economy. Well, here are ours. Right. So, yeah, so it's a two-way conversation. And I think thinking in those terms straight away, all of the things I just said are really fitting into the first R. They're really about how we respond really quickly. They may lead into recovery, but we've got a big job in initial response.
I'm keen to explore this who question because it's really important. Is there a role here, do you think, for the mayoral forum? They were able to swing into action pretty quickly around the 5 key infrastructural projects. One would imagine that this would be an order of magnitude slightly greater priority.
Yeah, so I'd be looking to take the mayoral forum and add some people to it and set up a special response committee or response team, regional response team. So you need the political leadership. You also need business leaders, iwi leaders, community leaders in that top level team, if you like. Definitely need the infrastructure underneath to get stuff done, because that's where the real hard graft will happen in floating up the right projects at the right time.
What do you think our areas of priority should be? David, if you had $500 million or, hey, even $1 billion, where would you sink it in Northland right now?
First thing is a notion called smart specialization, which is exactly that. What are those things that can get you into higher value products, that can return more to your place? How can we build on the things that we already have in place in terms of our comparative advantages? Northland, horticulture, agriculture, wood processing, maritime, manufacturing in various areas, secondary industries, quite strong in some parts, not in others. How do we look at what areas we can really make some advantages in that we can bed down in Northland? That's kind of like a recovery rebound strategy. We need to be thinking about that right now. So if we're going to build something, let's think about how we build that where we can accommodate that kind of notion. I heard Sue Doby talking about circular economy, for example. Well, that's a notion. It's a way of organizing how you think. The specializations within that are what we need to move to. Another person said, well, I think digital is the answer. Digital what? Ubiquitous technologies, ICT, AI, robotics, all of those things. Every advanced economy in the world has them. Every single advanced economy has those. The question is, what do you use them for? So in Northland, and I think Sue mentioned this, bioactives is right up there because of the subtropical climate, the different kinds of species and growing conditions, different soils, water supply, all those kinds of things are really important for Northland. How can we use that as a basis and use those technologies to get those specializations that provide real value on top of what we normally do? You can cut that across every one of those sectors that I talked about. Wood processing, how are we collecting cellulose? What are we doing with the advanced technical advantages that we have with Pinus radiata as one of the most dense woods that is available on the market, and it's particularly in Northland. Totara, totara is an indigenous wood that if you left your field would just turn to totara in 5 minutes. It's like if you went back in 5 years later, be covering totara. So it's got specific properties that are endemic to Northland. Not to mention the bioactive properties such as Totranol is an anesthetic. So all of these things need to be thought about across our existing strengths and how we get deeper and specialise more and get more value out of all of those.
What do Northland business leaders need to do now, in your view, David? A lot of them will be consumed at this very moment with simply getting their businesses back up and running.
Yeah.
But there's a greater need, in my view. What do you think they need to be thinking about in tandem right at this point?
Good question, Peter. Look, evidence tells us that civically minded business leaders are gold. And putting them alongside, say, your mayoral forum, along with iwi leaders, some people from the NGO sector, Economic Development Agency chair, Far North Holdings, you know, those other organisations, it could be Ahu Whenua Trust, Runanga, whatever you think is right in terms of your regional response team, it should be fit for purpose. And the message to local government is don't try and do this on your own, because you don't have all the levers to pull. If you get all of those sectors together and you can decide on which projects are the right ones, and you all lean into that and present that front to central government, it changes everything. It changes everything because central government can go, okay, these guys really know what they want. This is easy for us. We'll buddy up. We'll get their resources and our resources and we'll make it happen.
Dr. David Wilson, really sage advice as ever. Thank you so much for your time and all the very, very best for the weeks and months ahead.